What is up, guys? Back with another UFC prediction video. Quick recap of the last card. UFC Vegas 84. I did predict that one correctly. Magomed Ankalaev by KO. But I'm excited to get into the first pay-per-view of the year in 2024. We got Strickland versus du Plessis. I'm super excited for this matchup, and I think it's going to be a really good fight, super closely contested, and we're going to go ahead and break it down today. Strickland versus du Plessis. So the narrative around both of these fighters has definitely changed a lot in the recent year. So Strickland, of course, coming off that huge win over Adesanya, displaying striking defense that we have not seen implemented in MMA before at such a high effective rate, using the modified Philly shell. And he really put on a very, very good defensive masterclass that performance. And then, of course, with Dricus du Plessis over Robert Whittaker, just absolutely bulldozing the former champ, the certified real gatekeeper of the UFC. He was beating everybody else in the middleweight division until Dricus du Plessis came in and took him out round 2 TKO. Big upset, just like Strickland was. And now both of these fighters find themselves fighting for the middleweight title of the world. You'll have to wonder how the mind games are going to come into account in this fight. Of course, Dricus was talking mad crap to Sean at the seasonal press conference about, his trauma, his past, his dad, and everything like that. Strickland was talking about killing du Plessis, talking about bringing a knife and stabbing him in Canada. He's a crazy man, but you got to love Sean Strickland for the entertainment, for the crazy bits that he does at media day, in his interviews and stuff like that. That's one of the main reasons that I am glad he is a champion right now. Always makes for a fun build-up. But I think that, Coach Eric Nixick, he'll be able to get in Sean's ear, make sure that he's not over-aggressive or anything like that in the fight to where he's going to overextend himself drastically and hinder his performance. So I think Eric Nixick is going to be able to calm him down when it comes to that. Now look, I like both of these fighters a lot. They're both very entertaining, both pretty good on the mic as well, so they make for good bits at press conferences, interviews, and stuff like that. But for my official prediction, I'm going Dricus du Plessis. I'm going Dricus du Plessis by knockout. And he's going to have to impose his will early in the fight, less than 3 rounds. He's got to get it done. If it goes into the 4th, literally hedge all your bets on Sean Strickland so that you won't lose money on Dricus, because he won't get it done in the later rounds. I don't see the possibility of Dricus winning a decision. Sean Strickland can. But I think it's a higher likelihood, because of some things I'll point out, that Dricus takes it early in the fight. Whenever there's a stylistic matchup where there's kind of more of a slow, methodical fighter that kind of likes to make reads versus someone who is super aggressive, kind of just goes in there guns a-blazing, a lot of the times, if the fight ends early, it's the person that goes in there, full force, barging forward, that eventually gets it done just on pure grit and will. And because the other person that is used to, slowly building into the fight, which is, of course, Sean Strickland in this moment, they never really get an opportunity to make reads, start being able to plan out anything, being able to plan out defensive maneuvers that you can use throughout the fights. Of course, combinations that you think will land on the opponent. That never really materializes because all the patterns that they're used to and the timing that they're used to is just getting completely offset by literally like a wrench getting thrown into the gears. That's what Dricus du Plessis is going to do. And what that's going to have to look like for Dricus du Plessis is he is going to have to force Sean Strickland backwards, because Sean Strickland is able to time things a lot better, get his boxing offense off a lot better, and of course his teep as well when he is moving forward on opponents. And Dricus is going to have to move Sean Strickland back so that he can't get into that rhythm, so that his boxing combinations aren't going to be as crisp. They're not going to be as effective moving backwards because you just simply don't have the same balance. You can't plant on your feet as well. I'm talking about literally like marauding forward, not stopping, constant movement. If you get him against the cage, shoot the double. Of course, he's going to have to implement grappling as well. I'm not saying he has to. I think he can tag him on the feet as well. But it would be a very, very smart decision for Dricus to give Sean Strickland different looks. You know, come in with a big overhand left, shoot a takedown. If Strickland gets up, you know, maybe shoot a left body kick, and then, you know, maybe mix it up a little bit, go to the body, switch stances, then shoot the takedown. He's going to have to give him a lot of different looks because Strickland, he likes to sit there and think and analyze the fighter and kind of get into the groove of it before he really starts to get his offense going. Of course, except for against Adesanya where he dropped him in the first round. But that's besides the point. He tends to do better in that circumstance. And Dricus simply has to not allow him to do that. And with the will and the grit and the aggression that I've seen from Dricus du Plessis, I think he's truly going to go in there and execute that game plan well. I think something that will be open for Dricus as well is going to be his left kick to the body. He does implement this quite well, especially when he's in the southpaw stance. He'll shoot some combinations with the hands and then end it off with a very good kick to the body. He needs to do this versus Strickland because if you can invest in the body in Strickland, he's going to start dropping his hands and he's going to start overreacting with his defensive style. And that's going to create openings up top for Dricus to be able to land a big step in overhand. And he has to keep on piecing these together. So he can't just throw one and stop because Strickland is good at stopping just one shot. For example, when Strickland fought Adesanya, you know, Strickland, he's a rhythm guy. You know, he likes to get into the groove of things like I've mentioned and, you know, feel it out, be cerebral in there and just kind of play out the fight as he sees fit as it goes instead of just going in 1,000% fucking balls to the walls. And Israel Adesanya kind of played that game with him. You know, he's kind of a pop shotter. He kind of likes to get in the groove of things himself. He's a dancer. He's a little bit of a singular shot kind of guy. He doesn't step in and throw big combinations like an animal, like Dricus du Plessis does. And, you know, Strickland was able to just completely enter the matrix versus Izzy. But, you know, Dricus is about to be the glitch in the matrix. I'm telling y'all. He is just going to have to go in there with a reckless abandonment and completely just overpower Strickland from pillar to post. But he's going to have to get it done before the end of the fight because if it goes into the fourth or fifth, I don't think that Dricus' style, similarly to like, you know, maybe a McGregor or somebody who gasses out quickly, just because of their style, how explosive it is and how much energy it requires, that is kind of the cloth from which Dricus is cut. There's a give and a take with the explosivity. So he's going to have to use all that athleticism, that power in the early rounds to be able to get Strickland out of there because he's going to have expended so much energy doing that in the first bit of the fight that I don't think he's going to have the energy to be able to, you know, shoot a takedown at the end of the fight and be able to secure it and really hold Strickland down, be able to do ground and pound. I think a good strategy that Dricus could implement would be, you know, really go for that damage, that high output, not high output, but high damage style with your strikes and really throw like combinations in full length sequences instead of just pop shots in the beginning of the fight. And then at the end of the fight, maybe try and implement the grappling a little bit more and just kind of maintain position if you get tired. That's what I would do if I was Dricus. But of course, I'm not his coach. He does have a very good coach. They're definitely going to conduct a very good game plan for this fight. I'm pretty confident in it. But it would not surprise me at all if Dricus gasses after 2 or 3 rounds and then we just see him turn into a punching bag for Strickland because Strickland, of course, really is good at getting his combinations off and breaking a fighter at the end of the fight because he's just constantly, you know, coming forward and just popping you with boxing combinations. You can't seem to breathe and it's just a fist here, and it's just, you're getting fucked up and you don't even have time to think. That's where Strickland is good. But I don't think Dricus is going to get to that point. If he does, he's probably going to be fucked because he has a bad habit of like backing up with his hands like this. And he just leaves himself kind of exposed for a big counter as soon as he gets up against the fence. And I could see him shooting like a panic takedown, something along these lines. And Strickland being able to shrug it off and then just finish him up against the cage in the 4th or 5th if Dricus gasses out, but I don't really see that happening. Like I said, Dricus, he just needs to be the wrench in the gears and just completely fuck everything up. Robert Whittaker, I feel like possibly, other than the athleticism and how big Robert is, because he's kind of a smaller middleweight, he's not as big as Strickland is, but his style, I feel like, is a little bit harder for Dricus to actually pinpoint and, you know, put the nail in the coffin with it in terms of like striking, because Robert is a little bit harder to hit. He's in and out, he's moving a bit. I think Strickland is going to be a little bit more up the alley of somebody that Dricus could hit and actually have success with, just because he's not moving around as much, and it's not going to give Dricus as much to think about and as much to really process when he's throwing his strikes, because he's not super technical, but when he has someone standing in front of him, he does know how to impose his will and get it done. So that is why I am going with Dricus du Plessis. I'm going round 2 KO. I think that, you know, he'll get Strickland down early. I think he'll hit him with some really hard ground and pound. Strickland will find his way up back to the feet at the end of the 1st round. Some kicks from Dricus. You know, we'll have some striking exchanges into the 1st, and then once we get into the 2nd, I think it's going to be a matter of time before Strickland is overcommitting, doing too much with the parrying, trying to block body kicks with his hands down low, and then something's going to come up top, big overhand left to the chin, and that's going to be all she wrote. I love Strickland. I would be perfectly fine if he stayed champion, but for the sake of predictions, for the sake of betting, I'm picking Dricus du Plessis. I do believe on most books, Strickland's coming in at minus 140, and Dricus is coming back at you at about plus 110, like I said, on most books. But, you know, I think you can definitely get some value at plus money for picking Dricus. That is definitely what I'm going to be doing. We'll see how this ages, but I think the winner of this can definitely fight Israel Adesanya on UFC 300. I'd honestly like to see that happen. They would still have like 3 months to, you know, turn around. It'd be a quick turnaround, but, you know, pay-per-view points on 300 will probably be worth it. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and you guys have a great rest of your day. Enjoy 297. We'll see how it all plays out.